Welcome to this new episode of Serial, where I present more traditional photographs that I've taken during the months of August 2022. So let's start again from last month. So those two first pictures are in Reykjavik. I'm continuing my work for a book on Iceland. And that's nighttime during summertime in Reykjavik, so it's really late during the day. And you have those really interesting lights. Here it's pictures taken with the Leica SL2 camera and the different Summarit-M lenses, f2.5, basically 35mm, 50mm, 75 and 90mm, with this really harmonious rendering for me. And those two pictures taken during those nights where the skylight is kind of always persistent, gives really interesting color characteristics to your images between those artificial lights from neons, from mercury lights, and of course the late night sky light. You really get those interesting compositions thanks to the mix of the very complex lighting situation. Those two next pictures, again in Reykjavik. Reykjavik has this port where you have in the shipyard, they basically repaint and restore boats, large boats. And for those who go regularly, you have really very different boats coming in, and so very different scenes. That time, that was this interesting tugboat that was being repainted on the right, and on the left, that's another tugboat in the Reykjavik Bay. Again, those low lights, summertime low lights, with those really phenomenal skies and mountain ranges in the back. So you really have very contrasty scenes there. The next two pictures, that's in Reykjavik. Again, those low lights, low sunlights, give opportunities to take pictures of strong reflections or lighting conditions, so with very strong shadows, very marked shadows. The picture on the left, you can see this reflection from a more modern building with glass walls and this monochrome wall on this other building, and this kind of parallel line with the rooftop of another building. I found it interesting with also those two security cameras. So it's kind of a really nice place to be for street photography. Also on the right, you can see this reflection on the paint, which is a little bit glossy. This man in the street. The picture on the right is in the kind of touristy harbor. But yeah, you get the idea. Really nice place to take pictures. Again, Reykjavik on the left, that's really nighttime. Again, as I was saying before, the sky is kind of never really dark, but the mix between artificial lights, that's again in the harbor, in the shipyard. You have a mix between those really yellowy mercury lights, some of the neon lights, and of course the kind of night skylight, which adds to the overall scene, gives really interesting ambiances to your pictures, and it's an incredible place to just walk around. And yeah, on the right, that's again in Reykjavik. For those who've been there, it's a kind of a famous place where they sell sausages. They're open almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It got pretty famous when the United States President Clinton got sausages there a long time ago. But here again, I kind of like the ambiance of a mix of touristy. You have those two tourists that are getting their sausages and a local trying to sell some T-shirts with this very Icelandic ambiance, basically. Next two pictures, when walking in Reykjavik, you have a mix of, the architecture mix is kind of interesting. You do find those old corrugated sheet metal undulated houses from a long time back, before the touristy times, I'll say, with bright colors that got kind of abrased by time, by the weather. But you have this mix with more modern structures and lots of grass, lots of trees. And again, those very low lights that give it strong contrast and shadows. So really interesting place to go take pictures during summertime. Here we're changing environments, still in Iceland. On the left, that's a picture taken from a plane, and you have those really dramatic skies and clouds and many layers of clouds. And I was lucky to have this picture where the blue sky kind of peeps out with the sun, and you have those sun rays going down and through a higher layer of clouds to those cumulus, basically, I guess, clouds underneath. Really eerie feeling of this picture. And on the right, that's a picture I was lucky to be in Iceland during the latest eruption, volcano. And so I went to check it out. And that was the occasion to kind of check the moss. You have loads of layers of moss around the landscapes in Iceland. And it's pretty fragile because it's basically those moss are kind of 100 years old. And they tried the local environment rangers, and basically everybody tries to respect those plants. So that was the occasion to go through, we'll see later, and take pictures of this really very thick layers of moss. Very interesting colors and textures, and it's super soft. It's really, really, really an interesting living organism. And here, those two pictures, that was this Fagradalsfjall. And so it's south of Reykjavik. It's basically half an hour to 40 minutes drive and then 3 hours walk. So that was a liquid eruption with a lava lake. Not at all the same kind of volcano as the one that was made famous for blocking the airliners in 2010. That was the Eyjafjallajökull, which was more of an explosive volcano. This one is more of a liquid, bubbly volcano. And as you can see on the left, you have those main, I don't know if you name them vents, but you have those main ducts that basically spurt out molten rock, and then this huge lava lake and river of lava that tries to get out of the valley. Again, here on the left, you really can see this lava lake with a very thin layer of cold, relatively cold rock, which basically is black. It's really very, very hot, but I mean, it's relatively cold compared to the completely liquid rock underneath. Very impressive, very powerful. Those main ducts that basically exhale molten rock can throw lava very high, basically 20, 30 meters high. I think more, actually, of what I've heard. It's very, very impressive and very warm when you get there. Again, it's Iceland, so people are really well organized and quite respectful, too, of their environment. And this eruption being so close to Reykjavik, everything was well organized in order not to disturb too much the moss environment, not to make a mess of everything. So, and you also had some teams, security teams, just in case, standing on the path and very well done and a very good meteorological service to check on what directions the wind was bringing the toxic gases to. So very well organized. On the right, you can see those lines of visitors to see this volcano. I didn't expect so many people, but actually when you get there, it's not that crowded, but really a popular event. Then we're going to go to film photography now. This trip to Iceland, I took both digital and film analog photography. But that's films I've developed from a past trip because it takes time, and that was during my loop around the island, probably in July, and using Hasselblad XPan camera with a 30mm, 45mm, and 90mm lens, and that's a picture taken with TMax 100 film, Kodak TMax, using the 30mm, which is basically an equivalent of 17mm lens on a usual full-frame camera. Basically 94 degrees of angle for the panorama. That was also interesting because last month I used the 17mm lens, the lomography Atoll lens, so I could have basically the same wide angle with both cameras. And here you see the latitude you have using film is kind of tricky. So in order to get the very contrasty scene, that's what you actually get out of it using this TMax. And that's probably near Reykjavik in the north of Iceland. Here again, same equipment, Hasselblad XPan with a Kodak TMax 100 film. Again, when you have those really strong dynamic ranges, your film is going to be, it's not modern digital sensors. So it's really hard usually to use the good exposition parameters. But this camera has a really good light sensor and does a pretty good job of telling you where you're situated, and then you can modify it a little bit if you want to overexpose or underexpose. Again, those really incredible sceneries in Iceland. This next photo, again, XPan panoramic, but using Cinestill 800 ISO film. It's basically Kodak Vision 3 Cine film without the anti-halation layer underneath, which makes it C41 development process compatible. And you get those really weird colors. And I do have probably some light leak or maybe some problems with my developing of the film. As you can see, those warm shades on top and bottom, which basically correspond to the perforations for the film. So I don't know, but I actually like the results. But on this photo, on this film, I do have some color weirdness going on. Here is still film, still Iceland. That's using a Leica M5 camera and Ferrania P30 50 ISO film. Very contrasty film. It's an Italian film, and as you can see on the left, that's one of those incredible waterfalls as you can find in Iceland. Probably north of Iceland, slightly south of Akureyri, which is the second largest city in Iceland. And on the right, I believe it's a small port city of Reykjavik. You have those really interesting. The rendering of this film really gives you the feel you could have when being there. So it's film is not dead, definitely. Again, film. Here are two pictures which are completely somewhere else. We're moving geographically. As I've already discussed in previous episodes, I tend to load a film and then forget about it, not finish it, and use many cameras. So in this situation on the left, that's a Canon MC camera, point and shoot from 1984, using Kono Monolith 400. That was in Prague. in 2021, not exactly sure when, but lots of dust, which I don't really care. I don't mind actually, but that's this film I started it a long time ago, and on the right, that's probably in Iceland. That's where I finished this film with this interesting grain from the Monolith 400 film. Here we're still in black and white, going back to Leica M5 camera. Not sure of what lens that is, but again, same concept. I put the photo on the right is in Oslo in 2021, probably December. As we can see with those the two main towers at the horizon, which are the city hall. And on the left, that's probably in Reykjavik. Not really sure, but again, I find it interesting to have a film that started a long time ago. That's Berger Pancro 400. And to start it somewhere and finish it somewhere else, because you're going to develop it, you're suddenly going to remember moments and just rediscover the work you've tried to do. Here again, same film, same camera, the Berger Pancro 400, using the Leica M5. In between Oslo and Reykjavik, I was in California, and these are two pictures taken in California. So really, your film is going to tell you, it's kind of a road trip in itself. Those two next pictures, same concept, but this time using an Olympus XA camera, point and shoot, basically point and shoot, but manual focus it's a rangefinder, a camera I love. It's really a classic. And this time using Kono Monolith 400 black and white film. The picture on the right, that's Prague. Last year, and on the left, that's Geneva. It's in Parc de la Grange. This is the building, just for the anecdote, is the building where Putin and Biden met in Geneva a while back. You can find their photo in front of that door. But again, I'm trying to promote the use of film in cameras that you'll forget and then you'll use again and finish your film a long time later. I like the experience. Here, it's still film. This time it's using an expired APS film from, I believe, the year 2000, Kodak Advantix 200, using a Leica C11 APS film camera. It was the only one Leica made. Really tiny camera, fantastic zoom lens. And here you have the colors are really burnt out because the film is expired, but I really like the rendering. And a few random photos I liked from this roll. The next two pictures. That's again the Canon MC point and shoot camera from 1984, but using Kodak Color 200 film. I'm wondering if this film is not maybe a little expired, but anyways. That's a good example on the left of this. This camera has a small module with a flash that you can add on and rapidly disconnect and put in another pocket if necessary. It's got a really strange, strong flash feel to it, and really, to me, it's really 1980s looks. It's really classic. I like the rendering of this combination of camera and flash. And when the camera doesn't use the flash, it's basically the exposure and focus are automatic, so you can't really control, and it's not going to try to make things go fast. Not much intelligence behind. So you'll have those motion blur pictures when the exposition is kind of insufficient, but really it gives it a really nice feel to it. Those two pictures are a good example of how this camera is interesting. And again, those two last pictures for the month, using the Canon MC, same film, Kodak Color 200, probably expired. Again, on the left, that's a good example of the flash that's used during daylight. Really, it's got quite some power. That was in April, in Bern, the picture on the left. Really late cold weather and snow, so you have this magnolia that's trying to bloom but gets frozen and covered by snow. A really interesting picture, I believe, with the flash. I really like it. And again, this camera has the optics are pretty good. Does a pretty decent job of giving you a 1980s look to your work. And the picture on the right, again, that's probably not with the flash, but you get an idea of what kind of pictures you can do using this really practical camera. But I talk about it in other videos. Okay, hopefully you were entertained and found it interesting. And if you have questions or comments, as usual, please don't hesitate below the video. Okay, see you next time.